Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You know, I watched that video of the police officer killing that black man in Minneapolis. And, I began to sort of go over, all of the information and data and research that I've read over the years in reference to white supremacy and white dominance, not only in America, but throughout the diaspora of the world. And I've come to the conclusion that white supremacy must exist. White supremacy is a self-defense mechanism or tool. It must exist. It is a issue of survival for white Europeans or people of white European descent. I began to look at some different numbers, and I didn't really get the opportunity to really get into some of the numbers and some of the different angles that I wanted to look at this. So I'm just sort of making this video here on the fly early this morning. The Brookings Institute, if you're not familiar with them, they're a think tank, research-based group that looks at many different issues. But according to the Brookings Institute, they said that by the year 2045, whites will be the minority in America. They said that whites will make up 49.7% of the population. Hispanics will make up 24.6% of the population. Blacks will make up 13.1% of the population. Asians will make up 7.9% of the population, and multiracial people will make up 3.8% of the population, with the largest growth rate exponentially will be multiracial people. Or I don't look at races, people having different races. From Islam, Allah says that He created the men and the jinn and the angels. So humans are a race. We're multi-ethnic, multicultural, but not multiracial. But, speaking in terms of, so that we understand, this term multiracial is what's used to show people who are, mixed, Asian and black, black and white, white and Indian, whatever the case may be. So we all understand multiracial, but the largest number of growth is going to come out of the multiracial, and that's due to immigration is going to be one, globalization, the fact that we're moving around the world a lot more, the fact that people are moving to the U.S. and to the West in large numbers. It's going to all add to that multiracial demographic. I remember when I was in graduate school, I looked at an article by the National Geographic. National Geographic said that by the year 2050, and it had a picture on the front of the magazine of a young woman who was racially ambiguous, light skin, green eyes, curly, light brown hair, blondish, light brown hair, obviously a person of color. And it said on the cover, this is what the average American will look like in 2050. So there's some variances in, the approximate time. Now, again, we're talking strictly America, right? If you look at it globally, people of color outnumber white Europeans and those of white European descent by a large margin. We're talking Africa, which when you look at Africa on the map, it's always, the size of it is always not correct. It's always made to seem smaller than what it actually is. And, if memory serves me correctly, you can take the United States, I believe in Europe, and put them inside of the continent of Africa alone, if memory serves me correctly. But, the continent of Africa is massive. So you count all those people of color, you count all the people from all the various countries, all the people of Latino descent, the people of Indian descent or Asian descent. I mean, they outnumber Europeans. And then you look at birth rate, which is something that I wanted to look at, but I didn't get the opportunity to look at it. But I know that for the Muslim, the birth rate is much larger for the Muslim population than it is for some of the other demographics, primarily people of white European descent and white Americans. I also read some research that spoke to people of Britain, that around that same time period, even sooner than that, they said that Britain will become a Muslim majority country based on the number of children that the Muslims are having versus what the white British are having. Just off the top of my head, I heard it was like white Brits were having like 1 child per home or 1.5, and Muslims were having like 8 or 9, something like that. Again, just off the top of my head. But these are all numbers that can be researched, all numbers that can be looked into. The Pew Research Center, which is again another research-based think tank that looks at many different issues, and they are academically revered, academically sound. Everything they come up with is researchable, so it's not a bunch of ambiguous information that can't be tracked and traced. Pew Research said 2018, the average age of an American was 27 years old. The average age. Notice I didn't say white American. I said 27 years old. 27 years old was the average age of an American, but the average age of a white American was 58 years old. The average age of a white American in 2018, according to the Pew Research, was 58 years old. So those are some of the numbers that a quick Google search will pull up for you. And again, this speaks to my initial statement that white supremacy must exist. It is a matter of survival. People of color must understand this. When we look at historically global conquest, moving from country to country, taking resources, pushing LGBTQ agenda in the black community, mass incarceration, these are all tactics to slow down birth rate of people of color, black people primarily. It is these types of tactics and tools which are by design, which are institutional and systemic and used for the purpose of slowing down birth rates, slowing down progress, trying to prolong the inevitable. So these are just some things that I've been sort of looking at and thinking about. Again, white supremacy must exist. It is a matter of extinction. The difference between extinction and survival. But I will say this. This doesn't mean that all white people are complicit. This doesn't mean that all white people are on the same team or they all support this. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the intelligentsia, the intellectuals of the power structure, those people understand this. And those people are the ones who are designing the systems and institutions that maintain the status quo. And the rest of the white people are just the benefactors of said systems and institutions in history. They're the benefactors, whether they know it or not, whether they accept it or not. They are the benefactors, like it or not. But again, they're not all complicit. They're not all out to get us. That's not what I'm saying. But systems and institutions that are in play that speak to maintaining the status quo. I'll look at some other things. I'll look up some other stuff and come up with some other information later. But I'm busy right now, so I will. I'll get back to you later, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.